So for the Divine Blood role-playing game, at least the rules that I'm putting in the book, I'm going to take a page from the Dresden Files RPG, and what specifically I'm borrowing is the city creation aspect, though I'm not going to quite as extensive a level as that. What I am going to be doing is putting in a process along with character creation where the players and the GMs do get together and decide on some of the initial circumstances. The first thing that you do is decide on a theme and mood of your campaign. And what that is creating three aspects to describe what the campaign is going to be like. The first one's a campaign aspect, which is a sort of one-liner summary of the nature of the story. And some example ones would come from the titles of the campaign, examples that were in my playtesting file for those of you that have already seen it. For those of you that haven't, this is them. The demon next door, which would indicate, the next door thing just being the in a neighborhood setting, and where the entire thing is there are people living next door to you that have supernatural powers that maybe you didn't know about. And that was for the innocent slice of life, wacky hijinks type campaign. Then there's Keeping Up with the MacArthurs, which was the espionage campaign, and that refers to the fact that the MacArthur family set themselves up as the imperial family of Burma. Immortal Detente, which is the whole political truce Cold War thing between Yomi and Nirvana, the gods and the demons. Occult Investigations, which is the Cthulhu Lovecraftian looking into hidden things, and would tend to get to stuff that not even the gods and demons and Psyche and all them know all that much about. A Modern Troy, which is the 10-year and counting warfare going on between America, some of the Western European nations, and Eastern Europe since 2001 up to the current point in the 2002 and the current point in the setting. So that's been going on 10 years, just like the Trojan Wars lasted supposedly 10 years. And those were some of the example campaign aspects. The example, and then you come to theme. Theme aspects would be something that sets a general direction of the story, as well as some troubles and situations that would affect the characters fairly frequently. And some example theme aspects would be innocent slice of life, which would be where you have the main thrust of the story is just like a sitcom, things that are happening day to day, not life-threatening, more embarrassing, that kind of thing. Slice of life and death, which would be somewhere between daily personal life and the action-adventure type thing. Uneasy Truce, which is the thing about the gods and demons. Quest of Discovery, which is the occult thing. Your characters are looking to find new information, new knowledge. And Open War, which is an aspect that you can be invoked for any of a number of things. And then you have the mood aspect, which is meant to set the general tone of the story as a whole, whether it isn't to be comedic, serious, or whatnot. For example, wacky hijinks, serious and soul-searching, politics and intrigue, let sleeping dogs lie, no one is talking to each other. Those are some aspects that you would have end up 3 aspects on the campaign as a whole, and then you move on. That gives you a basic idea of the campaign. You move on to the next step. The next step would be determining the ring and limits of your campaign. Now, Strands of Fate, maximum ability levels and maximum vantage point expenditure is included in the power level chart. And all I've done really is renamed the power levels based off of rings, which is thematic to the setting, where they label power by rings, starting at 12 for the weakest and going on down to 1 for the strongest. And I'd taken the maxes out and left that as a separate thing, though I suggest in general that a GM offer a maximum of 4 on abilities at character creation and 5 in game. The advantage unsurpassed talent would alter that, of course. And then for advantages, it is suggested, I suggest you limit. I haven't decided on a limit for how much to spend on any one advantage yet. I want to wait until I see what powers look like after I reformat them based off the fact that I'm moving this into its own standalone system rather than just saying, go look at Strands of Fate. And since I'm going to be rewriting a lot of the cost and all that, and also redefining some of the abilities, I'm not sure what would be a good maximum expenditure on character creation yet. So I left it as X. Okay, step 3 is considering character concepts, and I put it not necessarily do the full character creation. But you could do full character creation at step 3, or you could do full character creation at step 1, but this is supposed to be a way to avoid having a situation where you have, say, this one person who is just a normal human, this other person who is a raven or a vampire or some other non-human, but doesn't have any sort of combat or training experience or whatever, and is essentially just a normal person with powers. So that you have 2 normal people who don't have any experience with fighting or anything, and throw in a psych investigator and an Avalon investigator, and not only do you have 2 people, now you have to figure out how these 4 people got together, but what you're going to do with 2 non-combat types, basic average people, even though one of them has powers, and then 2 combat types or investigative types, the soldier and the psychic exorcist. And so you would be doing the character creation during or after the campaign creation. Now at step 3, I have you to consider, I put in consider character concepts just because the next 2 steps are very much easier to do if you have an idea of what kind of character you want. Step 4 is creating initial locations and situations. And every location itself will have 3 aspects. Again, this is to give the GM some aspects that he always knows will be in play. The first of the locations is the setting. This is the overall location. This is the location that will encompass all the other locations in the game. So essentially, the 3 setting aspects make a total of 6 aspects that are on the campaign as a whole. It's a little bit of a cheesy way to do it, but and some examples for settings would be like the community high school, with community being a reference to the supernatural, superpowered types that live mostly normal lives. The Berlin Front, Ragged World Across Earth, which the Ragged World's a reference to the types of people that are out to do evil things, serial killers, terrorists, that sort of thing. The Hunt for Occult Lore, Where Immortals Dwell, which Where Immortals Dwell covers Earth, Yomi, and Nirvana, since they live in all 3 places. The Hunt for Occult Lore covers anywhere that things are hidden. And so those are some good overall settings for a campaign. And each of those has 3 aspects, well, the title being one of them. Like the community high school is an aspect, with 2 other aspects, Teenagers and Secrets and Puberty. Now, between The Demon Next Door, Innocent Slice of Life, Wacky Hijinks, the community high school, Teenagers and Secrets, and Puberty, you have a wacky campaign. And it's not likely to get very serious and grim, because whenever the GM compels one of those, it's not likely to be very bloody. By comparison, if you take the Berlin, the modern Troy, you have modern Troy, open war, and serious and soul searching, and then throw in the Berlin Front, long-standing battle lines, and unending battle, and you got some rather bloody aspects to invoke. Now, next will be common ground, which is the place that the character. This is a single location that all the characters know and can meet at, like the homeroom, the base camp, safe house, museum of antiquities, diner to heaven and hell, stuff like that. Next is a comfort zone, and every player's character will have one comfort zone, and this is the place that is the most comfortable for them. It's their home or their private recording studio, the vehicle bay, a private office, driving in the car, stuff like that. These can be mobile, like the base camp is a mobile location. The base camp may not be in the same geographic location every time. Then there's neutral ground, which is places that act as a buffer between the characters and the overall world where the adventure happens. Things like the mall, no man's land, civilian world, offices of common academia, meeting shards, and stuff like that. And then you have hostile territory, and you don't necessarily start a campaign with hostile territory. When you start a campaign with hostile territory, it's going to be in a situation like the high school one where you have the rival cliques, or the open war situation where the enemy soldiers. But if you're doing like Exorcist or occult, the occult investigations, or spies, or the Immortals, hostile territory will only exist at the beginning if you decide you are starting with a specific mission in mind and you're going to set up the locations for that specific mission. And this is stuff your players know about. Okay, and I keep doing like this and it makes me look fatter. Okay. After that, you have create initial NPCs, where I suggest that every character creates 2 NPCs and 1 or 2 organizations. And these can be connected. If they've already made their characters, these can be connected to their foe and help aspects. If they haven't made their characters yet, these can be used as foe and help aspects later. But this is just to give a good example of some sample NPCs. Mrs. Renner, the psychic librarian. Sergeant Blitzard, NCO Hardass. Thel Current, Order of the Throne assassin. Assad, hater of Tomb Raiders. Janice, mortal Faustian. And some sample organizations: the Paranormal Research Club, Squad 7, Personal Network of Contacts, Local Psych Office, House Cherit. And that's pretty much campaign creation. Step 6 is create player characters. Now, I've got about 2 minutes left, so I'm going to say what this is. Each of these locations is going to be producing 3 aspects. The campaign itself is going to be having 3 aspects. As such, since one of those locations is the overall setting where all the other locations fit, at any given time you have 6 aspects. And as I've said, you can use those aspects to make sure the campaign is as grim as the characters want it to be, or as challenging. If you're finding that they're not having all that much challenge, they're getting through things too easy, but they want it grim and gritty, then you can invoke serious and soul searching, and it causes them -2 on some social thing. Or you can invoke open war or unending battle to add a +2 to some enemy's attack, or something like, or add a +2 to their defense or whatever. In other words, make things harder for the player characters. On the other hand, if the characters are having troubles and are struggling, and it's supposed to be a happy-go-lucky campaign, you can use those same aspects to lighten things up, make things silly. They can be used to give the players fate points to power other things, interrupt. And you can do it in ways that looks like a trouble, but it interrupts things. Let's say they're having issues with a situation that might get them killed, and you compel wacky hijinks to have something strange happen. It looks like it's causing trouble, but it interrupts something that might have been lethal, and they get a fate point for it. So these aspects are GM tools and player tools if they have the fate points to invoke them. And then each of the locations has those aspects too, so if you're in one of the locations, you have another 3 aspects you can use to enforce the setting mood that you want. And I am out of time on this